Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the newest Rolling Stones album, Hackney Diamonds. This album was released just a couple days ago on October 20th, 2023. Before we get started, if you like any kind of content about music and culture, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So if you don't already know, the Rolling Stones are a rock band that was formed in London, England. One of the biggest bands of all time, needs no introduction. So this is the Stones, it's in probably their final years. They're getting so old that it's incredible that they're even still alive. And one of the things that I thought was cool about this album was that they still kind of had that energy, especially Jagger and Richards. The album starts off with a bang with the song Angry. This was definitely my favorite song on the album. It was super catchy, had that energy, that Stones energy that you would expect, and I thought it was a perfect way to start off the album. They obviously put this as the first song for a reason, because I feel like it is the strongest by far on this album, and I feel like the album kind of declines in the later tracks. Another track I really liked on this album was Get Close, the second track. I really like the chords that were used in this song. I feel like it makes for a really nice full sound when you use chords like that just have a lot of structure and open chords. They sound really nice to me. I also really enjoyed Bite My Head Off. It was much more aggressive, and it was nice to hear Mick Jagger drop a couple F-bombs. Dreamy Skies is a nice low-tempo, bluesy, honky-tonk song. Has some really nice steel guitar that I really liked in it. The honky-tonk sound, the way that I think of it is fairly American. For some of the stuff that I thought was a lot weaker are tracks like Mess It Up. It was just way too overproduced for the Stones. It almost sounded like they called up the guy from Maroon 5 and wanted him to make him a song. It didn't work at all for me. I didn't like it. And now for the best bad song, which is Live by the Sword. The lyrics were so cheesy and it just had no direction. It felt like Baby's first Rolling Stones song or something. Just really basic, and the lyrics were just terrible. There was one, if you live like a whore, better be hardcore. And then 3 lines later, he says, I'm going to treat you right. I'm going to treat you good. And it just felt really directionless with the lyrics that were totally clashing, but not on purpose. And then just the really basic tone. I don't know, just kind of cheesy. Yeah, I just didn't like it. It felt like that trashy by the numbers rock and roll song that your neighbor who rides a really loud motorcycle would listen to. There were some other songs on the album that just kind of felt like filler and didn't really feel like they served much of a purpose except to be songs on an album. But that could just be me. The Stones are pretty much in their latter years now. They're just so old at this point. So I wasn't expecting every track to just be a full-on banger. This was completely acceptable. And even at this age, being acceptable is totally fine with me. But the one thing that I did love on this album was Mick Jagger's voice. I mean, the dude's still singing like he's in his 20s or his 30s. I thought that it was really amazing. I really, really enjoyed the energy. Like I said, I wasn't going into this expecting, to hear something that was going to be really progressive and, expecting the Rolling Stones to be experimenting and progressing and finding their sound, because frankly it's apparent, and it's been apparent for decades, that the Stones have their sound pretty established. We know what we're getting when we listen to the Stones, and that's totally fine. But that also is one of the reasons I didn't like songs like Mess It Up, was they were going just totally the opposite of that, and it just didn't work for me. The best part of this album by far was Mick Jagger. I mean, he just was going at it the whole time, just going for it vocally. He's so entertaining to listen to with what he does with his vocals, and this album was definitely no exception. I mean, just for how old he is, it's really incredible. He's still singing like he's in his 20s or his 30s, and I thought that was really impressive. Listening to Keith Richards also just wail on the guitar. There were a lot of really interesting guitar solos and stuff that I just found really enjoyable. And it was cool, if anything, to see them at this age still doing that and still wanting to be the Rolling Stones. And at the end of the day, just have fun and make some bluesy rock songs and party. I mean, that's the Stones, right? And how can you go wrong with that? You can never go wrong with a good time. So there were parts of it I enjoyed, parts of it that I thought were a little boring, dragged on a little bit, but that's okay. The song with Lady Gaga in it was nice and it was pretty epic, but for the last like 2 or 3 minutes, they're also just kind of singing like, oh yeah! So overall, I give this a 6.9 out of 10. I feel like the number is fairly appropriate given the Rolling Stones. But I enjoyed it, and I thought that it was a nice album for a band that's obviously in their senior years to be doing. It's cool to see them still going at it. If anything, for me as a younger musician, it's nice to see that for some people the passion just never dies, and it's just never going to die. And that makes me grateful, and that makes me excited to be a musician. And so for that, I recommend that if you like the Stones, or if you've never really listened to them and you might be a little bit younger, to go and give the album a listen. Or at least, the songs that I mentioned, Angry, Bite My Head Off, Get Close, and Dreamy Skies. So that's going to be all for this review of Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones. If you made it this far into the video, I'd really appreciate it if you take just 1 second to like the video. And if you like any kind of content about music and culture, to click the subscribe button. I got some projects coming up for the channel that I'm really excited about. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.